for those of you who can see and aren't just listening, the context to this beast, it's almost as big as the Eben, okay? It's the Eben Etzebeth KWV 5-liter brandy, and you can be a winner. Sorry, Aister, you can't have it. You're part of the clan. Jean-Andre Joubert, our social media expert, I can see him just purring over this bottle now. Hey? On its way to Brackenfell, special delivery.
Like Gollum with that ring.
Unbelievable, yeah. So thanks to Hilton and Kendra Houghton and Paul van der Berger represent Eben. They got this prize for us. You just have to go to the Keo Zels show, the WhatsApp channel. Everything is there to enter. And if you are in London in November, you'll also see information about Eben's big night. You can spend the night with Eben Etzebeth. Well, up until I think midnight.
Asterisk.
Yeah, asterisk. You're not going home with him, okay? And really have a good time. That's when the box will be in the UK on the end of year tour. But a wonderful gift, and a big shout out to Kendra. She had a fall on Monday. Oof. She was operated on, nasty on her ankle. I showed Zels the picture this morning, nearly passed out. But our love goes out to Kendra Houghton. Thanks to Paul van der Berg, and obviously to Hiltz, the man who always played outside Herschel Gibbs and inside Robbie Fleck at Bishops in 1992 in that great Bishops team. But Eben Etzebeth, he will be on tour, adding to the 128 test caps. But it's going to be a great night in London with him. So if you are in London, you have some cash, pounds, book your seat. It really will be cool. Looking at all of you out there, we asked the question, what is your location when you come and you tune into our show? And we went through a few. We also asked old Aister Jean-Andre to pick a few. And we just went through. We got a Devet from Southwest Rocks in New South Wales, Australia. We've got a Rudy Janssen from Stavanger in Norway, and that's pronounced like that in Norway, apparently. We got Ricky's mate, Akokeshi from Mexico City.
There we go.
We got Neil Harvey, who's in Colombia, and he's in Bogota. Not bad, eh? Pronunciation.
Not bad. You did good.
We got Piet Dirk van Skalkwijk. He's watching from a barge offshore in Iraq in the Persian Gulf.
Wow.
We got Robert Kuma. He's watching from Cyprus, and I hope he's sipping a Keo beer while he's doing that.
Yes.
And Grete uit Lima, Peru. Program is brilliant. Baie dankie. We got Sebastian, a big fan from Norway. We got Saludas from Costa Rica. And then we've got watching from Yangon, Myanmar. Is that how you pronounce it?
I think that's right, mate.
I think that's a country.
Yeah.
We got Martin watching from there.
Beautiful.
And then we've got Derek. He listens every week from the middle of Finland, the cold dark north. And then one of my personal favorites, I don't know how true it is, but John Anderson, 9128. He says, hi, I'm from Greece. I'm stuck in an Airbnb with a broken back. I don't want to know how you got that broken back, John Anderson.
Yeah.
And your channel is keeping me entertained and sane.
shame.
So if you are really there with a broken back, we wish you all gesondheid. But someone who would feel like he's got a broken back this week would be John Dobson, the Stormers coach. Because it's one thing to lose. It's really another thing to basically be choked by match officiating. And again, on this show, we're not South African whingers. We're not complaining when we lose. It's the referee's fault. We are consistent, win or lose. The match officiating in the URC has been diabolical. I think it's the best competition when we talk non-internationals out there. Better than top 14, better than the Premiership, better than Super Rugby Pacifica. But the match officiating has been consistently awful and woeful. And the Stormers, they got rogered in that 10 minutes before halftime, 10 minutes after halftime, 14-7 to Edinburgh. It changed the whole context of the game. And the thing that happened, for me, there is a formal process. They send off letters to Tappe Henning, our good mate, the South African, who's head of the referees. As I keep on saying, we share something in common. 6th of June, our birthdays. But there is never a consequence to these guys, Els. And it's just the frustration with players, the frustration with coaches. And when I asked you guys, content matter, the thing that came in the most was refereeing. And no one blaming, saying we lost because of the referees, just saying, how do these players continue week in, week out when there's such indifference, inconsistency? But really, for me, at times, it just looks like absolute bias towards the home team.
Yeah, look, we spoke about it before the URC season kicked off. We said we love this competition, but the officiating is woeful. Those words have come to fruition. We've seen it again this week. And I think a lot of it has got to do with resourcing. I'm not sure how much leverage any of these competitions have on these referees, because it looks like we are finding referees from the bottom of the barrel. So if you fire them, who are you replacing them with? It seems like there's a lack of experience and a lack of aptitude amongst a lot of these refs. And that's said within the context of the fact that refereeing a rugby match is probably amongst the hardest sports to officiate. In the NFL, you've got a narrower field with way more lines at 1 yard increments and 7 officials on the field. The rugby field's much bigger, much more fluid, fewer lines, and you've got 3 officials. And so it is an incredibly difficult job. It's also a job where you kind of got to turn a blind eye to the laws often to let the game flow. So I get it. I just wonder whether rugby in general, not just the URC, wouldn't benefit massively from investing resources into these refs, pay them like they are superstars, and then expect them to perform like superstars. Because, and I could be wrong here, but I get the vibe like we are running these officials on quite a tight budget. And I think if that changes, maybe you get a better crew. And I would make it a mandate that you have to have played professional rugby to referee it. All these guys leave pro rugby and want to stay in the game. This is a way to do it. And having a guy who's been on the field and understands the context of what's going on can only benefit the game, I think.
But then you say Johnny Kaplan was a great referee.
No, 100%.
Nigel Owens, great referee. Wayne Barnes, great referees. I don't think they play Test rugby.
True.
So
True.
I would certainly not go with that you have to have played the professional game.
Yes.
Because, my goodness, there's some great rugby players that I would never want to give them a whistle and be a match official.
Right.
I think your point of investing more in them,
Yes.
but also holding them more accountable. And it's not go for a referee who would want to referee the game in this modern age of social media. But these are guys, professions that we're talking about in terms of players, coaches. You know, coach gets fired at the end of the season because his team lost 5 games where he can point out 20, 30 clips that should have gone their team's way. And people, oh, you're whinging, you're moaning. Come on, get on with it. It swings in round about 6 of one, half a dozen of the other, that kind of crap. But when you get decisions, and especially when it's tough enough to be on the road and to win away from home, but when you just get this obvious bias and you just know, I take the Stormers, there were 5 infringements on Edinburgh's line close to halftime when they were pushing at 14-7. Not once was there even a warning given to the Edinburgh team. Yet, at times, those yellow cards come out so quickly against a visiting team, regardless. You know, you take the David Creel red card.
Jeez.
The referee on the field
What an abomination.
did not rule it because he was right opposite. He saw him leaning in, trying to do the handoff, but also protect himself. The 10 comes in very low, stumbles over, gets up and carries on running. The crowd starts going mad. The broadcaster starts going mad, and the next moment, the commentator is saying, this is just unacceptable, blatant red card, and it takes a judiciary to rescind the card. Now, that started a thing where the Bulls ended up with 12 players. 12 against 15 in the last 6-7 minutes of that game. They were 26-5 up, comfortably in charge of that game. Ended up winning at 29-19. It's a disgrace.
It is a complete disgrace. So what's happened to rugby that we've allowed the narrative to change? Like in the North, they pride themselves on the fact that they keep quiet while the kicker's taking a shot at goal. But they bay for the blood of a guy to get a red card and be sent off the field for something that nobody has proven is life-threatening or going to destroy somebody's lifestyle. Could Davy Creel have broken a guy's tooth? Probably, but he didn't. And the incident was so low-key and low-grade that the guy who was on the receiving end didn't even go for an HI. Nothing happened. So it's this massive upheaval and controversy that's got nothing to do with the actual contest that is a very bad advert for rugby. I don't know how they're attracting fans from other sports to rugby. It's just it's a circus.
Well, this whole thing that rugby has to speed up the game for spectator appeal, the biggest lot of nonsense that I've ever heard. We want to speed up the game. We want skew throws. If it's not contested, can continue. You got to kick within X amount of seconds. You've got to do this. You've got to do that. But we can take 5 minutes for a TMO referral for a nothing event that completely slows down the game. We can't have reset scrums because it slows down the game. We went away from a team that's on the attack, that goes over, gets held up. They have to then receive a ball 40 meters back because people apparently get bored of a reset scrum. But they don't get bored of a TMO referral for nothing that goes backwards and forwards, backwards and forwards, backwards and forwards because of the egos of the officials or because of instructions that they're getting, I really think World Rugby has to look at those things and say, stop this nonsense about wanting to speed up a game that doesn't need speeding up.
Totally.
That's made for all shapes, all sizes. There's a reason rugby was played with a scrum. There's a reason you can reset the scrum. There's a reason that you get a red card and it should only be really for blatant foul play. There's a reason you get a yellow card for cynical play, and that's whether the first minute or the 79th minute. Not the first minute we let it go, 79th minute, now we'll bin the guy. And give us back our game.
Get the marketing nerds and the safety police out of rugby and bring rugby people back in. That's what's got to happen.
It's so frustrating to watch at the moment. But what also really annoys me is people, as you say, who bay for a yellow card or a red card. Rugby is a contest, 15 players against 15. When I watch my team play, I want to know that the 15 players were good enough to beat the other 15.
100%.
I don't want to say we only won because we managed to milk 2 yellow cards or got a guy sent off and we were down to 15 on 13, and that's why we won. You know, I was watching that Bulls game and the commentators going mad. When David Creel got a red card, and then there was Ulrich Lowe got the yellow card. Then they were down to 12 because of the substitution and non-contested scrums. And he's like, could this be the miracle comeback? Could it happen? What, against 12?
Exactly.
I mean, and they still couldn't score in the end. 29-19. So it just riles me. It really pisses me off when I think
100%.
about what's going on in World Rugby.
Rugby needs leadership in a big, big way.
And not the kind of leadership that we saw from Bill Beaumont on his way out. Bill Beaumont played for England, played for the British and Irish Lions at lock. One of the guys that has held the game back so much in his leadership at World Rugby comes out and has a go with the bomb squad. Rassie Erasmus's innovation of the bomb squad, and says in his day and where rugby used to be, games open up in the last 20 and in the second half, and that's where all the points were scored, etc., etc. Too many substitutes, too many replacements. And Russ Petty, who's a very good analyst, I follow him on X, and he put up a clip to show that between 1980, in the 1980s and the 2020s, second half scoring is 54%. Nothing's changed. And your point earlier?
Oh, all I'm saying is after all the change we've gone in rugby over 45 years, it hasn't changed the game at all in that aspect of it. So rugby, there's too many people in rugby who defend their jobs by implementing perpetual change. People are so busy accommodating and acclimatizing to this constant change. Nobody actually knows what the hell's going on anymore. Let's just get back to our game and doing it the best the way we can, and stop with this thing that we have to constantly be tweaking, changing the laws. Let's just play rugby. Let's just get back to doing that.
Well, let's go back, and I'll always bring back the rucking, okay, in rugby. Now, you go back to the 80s. And before that, you got quick ball because you were either stupid or very brave to be lying all over that ball, and your back would show it. Some guys took that as a mark of respect, having 15 stud marks raked across them, but there was seldom a boot to the head. That would be accidental.
Yep.
There was seldom anything to the head. The only thing that came closer to the head was if someone clocked someone with a punch. There were accidental head clashes that everyone just went on with.
Exactly.
Now, we talk about the accidental head clash. Now, you've got a 10 running on a 10. 5'4", both of them. One ducks down. The other one hits the head, and it's a red card offence. High degree of danger because the referees are now medical experts, okay? You go and watch every game, 10 meters from the try line. Every forward, that's pick and go.
Constant.
There's a head clash every single time.
Exactly.
120 kilograms plays 120 kilograms, nothing said about it, play on. So when they keep on talking about the head it's
Sacrosanct.
that's what it is, and you don't go near there. I would understand if there's a headbutt on a guy.
But that's what cards are for, egregious foul play. That's when you send a guy off. He bliksums a oak in the jaw with his fist, he cops him, then you send him. Not for an incidental contact in a rugby situation. And like you said, those forwards are conking heads all the time in the red zone. Where are all the dead bodies? Where are all the oaks in the wheelchairs? Where is this degree of danger? Where's the evidence of it?
But where's the referee in a TMO of no medical expertise deciding what is a high degree of danger and what isn't?
Precisely.
In terms of a medical evaluation. I mean, we go back to last year's match at Dublin between the Bulls and Leinster. when Curtly Aronson nearly got decapitated, okay, by the 9 coming across, flinging himself at him, smashing his head into it, and it was going to be play on, where commentators saying, but surely the 9 thought that Curtly was going to dive.
No, didn't he say something about it being a kiss?
No, he said, and all you see there is the 2 heads kissing each other. Now, that took so much to eventually get the guy a yellow card, and that was deemed sufficient, okay? As Jake said afterwards, David Creel, if he didn't go for the handoff and with a leading elbow, because that's how you hand off, with a leading elbow as well. If he had just taken the contact, the red card would have gone to the 10 for bad tackle technique, because he would have knocked him in the head. That's how absurd it is at the moment.
Completely absurd.
You know, to my mates at the URC, please do something. Please do something. We got one of our great mates there, Charles Kraus, who's the COO. I think he hears my frustrations all the time. I send him lots of WhatsApps. I know it's not his decision making. He was at Croke Park though. I sent us a picture, as you'll see up on the screen, 80-odd thousand there for the Leinster Munster game. Didn't quite live up to expectation, the quality of game, but it's just incredible advertisement for the URC. So you've got this advertisement for the URC, 82,000 at a non-traditional rugby venue, and then you get that kind of match officiating all over in the competition. So, Charlie, try and do something, bud. Please help us. If you have any connections with Tappe, help us as well.
Yeah.
Tappe, I remember where you're from. I remember where you're from. South Afrikaner, man. You're South Afrikaner.
I love it.
Praat ons taal, man.
Yeah.
Huh? Take these oaks on. Educate them. Teach them.
Yeah.
And while we are talking about Dublin, big shout out to Jen in Dublin. As we said, we've always had one favorite South African in Dublin with Charles Kraus. And now we've got a second one. And Zels said it's not Jacques Nino because he's kind of attacked you. But it certainly is Jen. We appreciate it. And Jen used a lot of influence to help us get a verification on our WhatsApp channel. And without verifications, you know, business is slow with those algorithms. Yep. So, Jen, we really appreciate it. The numbers are starting to reflect. And when we're in Dublin, or if you're in South Africa, we will certainly treat you. So thanks a lot. Big shout outs there. And then again, well done, Leinster. Good win. Well done, Munster. Great occasion.
Yes.
And that's kind of what makes this URC so special.
Spot on.
Looking back at the game, Zelly, we
Yes,
called
sir.
4 from 4.
We was wrong.
No, we weren't. 2 from 2.
Yeah.
You're only good as good as your last 2 games. Die Lukies.
Yo. I'm loving the Lions. And you know what I'm loving about the Lions is that they were the kings of Super Rugby, and I was getting a lot of heat back in the day for saying that style of rugby was unsustainable and they wouldn't win championships with it. And now they are the kings of the URC from a South African perspective this season. They are the team in the South African Shield that ranks highest for kicks and tackles. They're playing very clever rugby. They're putting the ball where it needs to be, and then they're converting it into tries. They've got some deadly finishers that are thriving off some of this percentage stuff, and it's fantastic to watch.
And I enjoyed the way they came back from 1913. The Lions of last season and the season before that would have lost their game 36-20. At 1913, there was composure, and they played very, very intelligent rugby, and then scored a magnificent long-range try. But they closed out that game, and they got the win on tour, which makes them 3 from 3. They play Zebra. You would have to back them to beat Zebra, given the way they're playing. And that would make them 4 from 4, 2 up north, 2 at home. That's massive numbers in terms of league points.
Mate, I'm telling you, people think I'm joking. This hot dogs thing, there's some sort of secret sauce to that. Since the Lions have been chopping down to those escort Fiatas, they're on another level. The other team should be looking into this.
So Lions, as we keep on saying, Cash from Rowan did say, top 4,
called it,
baby,
mate.
top 4. We're
it.
going to do it this season. Looking good and just playing some really, really good rugger. And with some unheralded stars, but players that in 2 or 3 years' time.
Well, that's what I was going to say. I think the core of this Lions team, and I'm including the likes of Jordan Hendricks, etc., are going to feature at this next World Cup. These guys are growing and coming through at the right time. I think they can taste it, and you can see it in their performances.
And from the weekend, anyone from that Lions side that really stood out for you?
Oh, there's a bunch of guys in that team. They're all overachievers. And Klabakanye, that's a lovely team. Full of guys. Renzo Duplessis came on in the second half. He's a guy to watch. There's just so many nice quality players in there, unheralded, that play above the level. It's good.
Okay, so we had them to win. They did. Well done. We had the Bulls to win. 26-5, they were smashing the Ospreys, eh?
Yep.
And had they not had had they not been 12 against 15, they probably would have got to 50.
Yeah.
But they got the bonus point. 5 great points on the road for them. What did you make of their performance?
Thought very good. I think we're still at that phase with the Bulls where they've got to put 80 minutes together. There were extenuating circumstances in this particular game, but I think that would probably be a big priority is to play for 80 because I think they were up. I think they'd scored a point a minute or something, and then they kind of faded at the end there. They're definitely getting their power game going, and that scrum of theirs, they're basically in Bok mode here because that scrum just puts them in field position amongst the SA teams. I thought I had the numbers here, but in terms of visits to the 22, those guys are king of the heap, and they're controlling the field through that scrum. So it always puts them close to the line, and you give them enough opportunities, and the Bulls will knock you down.
And then you'd love the comments that Jake made after the game. He spoke about one guy only. The tractor that wears number 3,
Mate.
that is Wilco Low.
Oof.
And Jay coming out and just saying he can't really believe this guy's only played 14 odd tests.
It's ridiculous.
If he was the national coach, he'd be playing a lot. Just what he's done for that Bulls scrum, and his thing was that he does a lot more than just scrum as well. So Wilco Low, one of your fans, like Needlam for she is one of mine.
Exactly.
Wilco Low is one of yours.
Yeah.
And
Croucho Libre, I love that guy.
yeah, he's really been outstanding. I thought Auric Low was good again. It's pity about David Krill. I really like the way he's playing.
Yeah.
Just glad that he's still on tour, that red card was rescinded. But a good win for the Bulls. And then we look at our 2 coastal teams, okay? The Sharkies. One of the many, well, there were about 3 or 4 questions that said, what do the Sharks have to do to perform in the URC? And my answer was get their Springboks back. Excellent in the Currie Cup, won the Challenge Cup, basically when their Springboks came back. But there just seems to be a disconnect when those 5 or 6 Boks aren't there. And when you look at who those 5 or 6 Boks are, they're all in the pack.
Yep.
And you bring back a Bongi, a Vincent Koch, you bring back a Sia, Eben. I mean, now you're starting to talk again,
Totally.
So
They've also got to play winning rugby. They've actually got to go out there to play to win, not to dazzle and entertain. The Sharks are ranked amongst, I think they're actually number 1 for average carries per game in the entire URC. And they are ranked 15th for kicks from hand. This is a team that is carrying the ball, making offloads, all sexy jazzy, but it doesn't pay off at the end. You've got to be a little bit more circumspect.
I mean, they would be very disappointed. 27-7 up against Connacht. Connacht, okay? No poulet. And then, wow. I watched that Benetton game, and Benetton haven't been overly impressive in the start of the season, but they just got pumped, and fell off tackles, kind of seemed to lose heart and desire during that game. 38-10, and it was 38-3 right on near the end.
Yeah.
That's a walloping,
That is a walloping. And I think that Benetton team was due a bounce back because they are a better team than that. Reno Smith is a massively underrated player. But the Sharks needed to do better there. That just wasn't good enough the whole way around.
And not for a team that had come through the Currie Cup, won it in dramatic fashion. A team that had kind of been buoyant because they won a Challenge Cup. Last year they were diabolical in the URC. With the quality of player, the amount of spend, they should never be outside of a top 6 in the URC. Actually, they should never be outside of a top 4.
Not with that.
Given the quality and depth of that squad. And they're not the kind of squad that you ever expect to go overseas and be 38-3 down with 2 minutes to play.
Yeah, I don't think it's a coincidence that they lost Ethan Hooker early on in that match, and that was the result. I mean, he's been great for them. Sia Masuku's goal kicking has been great. The rest of his play, I'm not 100% sure. And Andre the Giant fancies himself as a playmaker, even though he's built like a number 8. Maybe they need to look at what Harlequins did at times and play him at fly half and bring Ethan closer to the ball. They may have something there. I don't know. They've got some decisions to make because it's a bit all over the place at the moment.
Yeah, so expecting them to bounce back?
I hope so. I mean, it is Glasgow. They're not too bad.
They're not bad, and they're a side who's shown they can travel, okay?
Yeah.
It is in Durban. Because we are obviously patriots, and we always say 4 from 4, we're backing the Sharks to come back this weekend. We're backing them to get a win. The
referee is Chris Busby.
Hey,
And the Sharks are 7.5 favourites to win this game.
I don't know how.
I don't know how. The Stormers are 7.5 favourites to beat Munster.
I don't know how.
The Lions are 15.5 favourites to beat Zebre.
I do know how.
And the Bulls are 11.5 favourites to beat Scarlets.
I do know how.
So they're favourites all round.
So it's another 4 from 4. We looked on the WhatsApp channel, our WhatsApp channel. We asked you, is it going to be 4 from 4, 3 from 4, 2 from 4, 1 from 4, or 0 from 4? And the majority of you said 4 uit 4.
I love that.
For die Suid-Afrikaanse spanne.
Beautiful.
So we've got the Sharks to edge it. They're going to have to play well because they are a team also. When they were struggling in the URC, we're visiting teams, I think of Edinburgh, I think of Benetton, who came to Durban and actually won. So it's not that there's this fortress there at the moment, and they certainly need the influx of those Springbok players who are in the current national setup. We look at the Stormers.
Yep.
Edinburgh, always a tough place to go. We weren't going to be fooled by the 50-odd points they conceded at the Lions. Extenuating circumstances at that 14-7 period, but you still expect the Stormers to be better.
Yeah, the Stormers are also in a tricky position because Gaza is their best fly half, great player, but Yuri Matia is the best goal kicker in the comp, and Gaza has struggled with his goal kicking, and this is a team that's struggling to produce tries. So you've got to get your points from somewhere here, you know. So I'm not saying that they should move Gaza. I'm just saying it is a tricky position to be in when you got the sniper fly half who doesn't really unlock the game that you want to play. You got the guy who unlocks the game you want to play, but then the goal kicking becomes an issue. The Stormers are starting to feel like they are really missing that front row that they had when they won the championship. The Steven Kitsoff and Francois Haber, the classic Bok rugby. What the Bulls are benefiting from now is you're always in good field position, positive territory, and so good things happen. Other teams are under pressure. You get those kicks that put your ice skaters on the front foot and they go for it. They chop teams to pieces and score great tries. But with the scrum that's not dominating like it used to, the Stormers are almost reactionary now. They are waiting for other teams to make mistakes under less pressure than what they used to generate. And so the try-scoring opportunities are fewer and far between. So they've got to get that scrum back. That's the key. That's the key, is get the scrum back to its full force, and I think that brings in Gelant and it brings in Gaza.
And what people quickly forget, you talk about the scrum, Dion Fourie, Diamani, and Evan Roosonte. Now, that was their starting loose trio.
Turnovers, mate.
So you're talking about those three players. You're talking about no Francois Haber and no Steven Kitsoff. That's 5 of your pack gone. And that made them so dominant. No Mani Lebok at 10, and we know he plays well for the Stormers.
100%.
And that allows Damian Williams to either play 12 or to play 15. Hartzenberg starting to come back. It's not the same Stormers side that won the competition, not the same Stormers side that has been competitive. This is a very underpowered Stormers setup at the moment. These guys they're giving it their all when they get out there, but let's not think of them as the title-winning Stormers because there's been so many changes.
Totally.
And without their Springboks, I mean, they'll be far better when the Boks come back, and when Sasha comes back and Marnie's available again, and the likes of Kitsi, we hope that he comes back at some stage from his injury. Dion Fourie, even at 39, would still be massive there.
Massive.
I think Achiever's a big loss for them.
Achiever's a big loss in kick chase, the speed to chase those kicks, and then Dion over the ball. Huge loss. And Steven Kitsoff.
Yeah, and it's kind of, you only know what you got sometimes when the player leaves. And I think he was disillusioned, Diamani, when he wasn't picked in the national setup. He had that one game where physically they said he wasn't as effective as he should have been in the confrontations. But for the way the Stormers play and what they do, a massive loss. They play Munster at the DHL Stadium. Get there, support them. They are the best supported in terms of league ground attendance in South Africa. They would be second only to kind of Leinster in terms of their pulling power in the URC competition. They'll certainly need your support this weekend. I see Munster having a great time. Postcard from the Green Mile at UCT. They seem to be loving Cape Town. Why wouldn't they? They have an incredible record in Cape Town. They've played here twice and they've won twice. They ended the Stormers' a huge home run in the league, and then they came back and they won that final 1914. And we've played obviously in Limerick twice and lost twice to Munster.
Munster unbeaten in their last 9 games against South African opponents, and the Stormers have only lost 1 of their last 9 home games.
And
URC.
And Munster have never lost to the Stormers, which makes the 7.5 kind of home ground advantage massive, given that the Stormers are coming off the back of a 30 38-7 defeat, and they had to travel back.
Correct.
And then why does he have to do it like in this fortnight? Ergir Snyman decides he wants to play a couple of games.
Somebody take him to a braai.
Is it because he loves coming to Cape Town, eh? I think he wants a bit of that brandy and coke. This is more than a double. But Ergir Snyman the one-handed take against his old mates at Munster. They must have thought, where were you for 4 years?
Yeah, that's the thing with this guy. Is you take his per second clips, he's the best player in the world. It's just keeping him on the field. Yeah.
But he was really good.
Yeah.
So he won't be here this weekend. It's Jean Klein that will be here. Ergir will be playing for Leinster. We'll have to get him in Dublin. But thank goodness he's not in Cape Town.
Yeah.
Jean Klein, good to see him back on the field.
Very
quality
good.
player.
Yeah.
Munster, a quality team. I mean, but also this season have shown that they can have that off day. They went to
Zebra.
They went to Zebra and conceded 6 tries. So there'll be a lot of there'll be a lot of fight in the Stormers setup. Important game for the Stormers to get back on the horse. They win this, they're 2 from 4. They win the next one, they're 3 from 5. And that's a good start. I've got them to win it, but hell, it's going to be close. Eh? And there's always that psychology when you haven't beaten a team. And these guys love coming to Cape Town, and why wouldn't you? It's a great place to come and stay in for the week and then to play some rugby. Where's your call game this weekend?
I'm going to say with the Stormers, Mike Adamson is the ref. Well, one thing I know about Dobbo's teams is they play for 87 minutes. And so it's in their DNA. You know, the cardiac stuff is part of who they are. So unless Munster keep it very, very tidy, Gelant and Gaza are going to manufacture something from nothing. I'm not going to say it's pretty, but I give it to the Stormers to win.
And Gaza, by his own admission, I think maybe because he was maybe trying a little bit too hard, taking on too much responsibility. First game at 10 for a long time, felt he could have been better, slipped off a couple of tackles, which you just don't normally see from him. I think we're going to get a big game from him.
Big time.
And Warwick Gelant, I think at times I just want Warwick to back himself a bit more with ball in hand, because when he does that show and go, like, well, everyone falls for it every time.
Your eyes leave the TV.
Yeah, basically. And
Yeah.
just keep on going, mate.
Yeah.
Don't offload it.
Totally.
Ben Jason Dixon, big game from him, hopefully.
Yeah, he needs to do
guy like Andre Smith, who's back in the mix. So there's guys there that need to put up their hands and just show, just lead from the front. I mean, they've got it. They've got that spirit within that squad.
Yeah.
And they're a really good bunch of Oaks as well.
Yeah.
You know, Cape Town can be proud of them and the way they play.
I'd like to see Zas involved a bit more, maybe from the blind side, bring him in, because he's a real tackle buster. He's a hard guy to bring down, and he's been very effective. So maybe bring him a bit closer to the action off the blind side and see what happens there. Make those fringe defenders catch up on him.
And for the Stormers Oaks, I want to say, if you're watching, do it for Storm and Norman, man. Don't leak tries. Okay?
Yes! The defense has been good, mate.
Do it
Up
for
and
Rito,
forward.
okay?
Yeah.
Do it for Darbo, and then do it for Darby. I mean, I think that Oak hurts more than anyone else. When the score was 38-7. These guys are so passionate about you.
Yeah.
And, and just go out and make Cape Town smile again and win on the weekend. Looking at what makes everyone smile, Rassie Russens makes everyone smile,
Yes,
okay?
he does.
We got a very, very good question to say. One, where does Rassie rank in terms of the South African coaches in the professional era? I think people would say, just the facts speak for themselves. He has to rank 1, 2 World Cup wins, a British and Irish Lions series win, 2 tests against the All Blacks, winning in New Zealand, in Australia, and beating every team that there is. So let's put him out there on his own, okay? Who else is in the mix? And then what does life look like 2027 and beyond? And we'll be chatting about that a lot over the next couple of years. But who is the replacement to Rassie? Does it come from within the system? Does it come from outside the system? Is it a young coach? Does Jock Ninaba come back? Is there ever going to be life for Jake again at test level? I know Nick Mallett has said, I don't think he ever wants to coach at test level again. He doesn't need the stress in his life.
Yeah.
Is Dobbo the answer to come through? Does Plum have a gap there? Is Cash going to do it? What are the options? Where do you see life going beyond for Rassie?
That's a hell of a difficult question to answer, because what Rassie brought to the job is cachet, in the sense that he'd won everywhere he'd coached, and he'd been very successful at all those places. He's a former Springbok. He's connected to a lot of previous World Cup cycles. Like, he'd been involved in the 2011 setup. He's a guy who's been around the block. And also he had a strong connection with the SA Rugby hierarchy. So there was a synergy there. If you bring a guy in from the cold, you know, every time there's a speed bump, the questions start coming out. Is this the guy? There's doubt. Like with Rassie, there was never of that, because aside from the fact that he's always innovating and thinking ahead, there was just that general cachet that he'd built up. So to replace that, I would say, is probably impossible. I think technically Jacques Nienaber is a guy who on the field means that your team will not leak points, and that immediately makes you a contender. I don't think he's got the diplomacy to be the Springbok head coach for a long term, in the true sense of the word. In other words, without a director of rugby basically handling the show for him. Jake is a guy who won the World Cup, took the Boks to the top of the pile at a very different time in rugby, under different context in terms of the team that he could pick and how he played. So he definitely has cachet. Whether that works with the current setup at SA Rugby, I don't know. And then you look at youngsters coming through, like Johan Ackermann is a name that would be a left field option. But he's proven that in very difficult situations, he can turn a team around. He can adapt a game plan to match the players he has. So there are lots of options, but nothing that is as blue chip, like as cookie cutter. There's no replacement for Rassie, I don't think. What do you say?
No, look, there is no replacement for him, and especially in what he's done. But it's something that they really have to start thinking about is what is the succession plan post-2027, unless he is a succession plan and decides he's going for number 4.
Intergalactic rugby master. Yeah.
I'm going to do it 4 times in a row. Yeah. He is the modern day Doc, as we call him, Dr. Erasmus.
Yeah.
Johan van Graan's done some very good things at Bath as well. He was on a hiding to nothing, I think, when he replaced Rassie and Jacques at Munster. Competitive with Munster, but really has turned Bath around, and a nice intake of South Africans there as well, helping him do that.
Yeah.
So he's a name we mustn't forget about. I feel for Alistair Coetzee and Peter de Villiers when they did coach the Boks. I never felt Peter de Villiers was good enough. I felt Alistair was out of his depth, but also he couldn't pick international South African-based players overseas, so he was also on a bit of a hiding to nothing.
Yeah.
I think they had value. Peter was very good with the under-21s. I thought Alistair was always very good as a backs coach and assistant coach. So please, it's not race related at all, and let's not go there, okay? I'm looking at who has coached and what they've done. Henning made good things in his first 2 years, kind of fell apart in that World Cup year and just before that. But I think for me, you would have to say, Carl, I think, was ahead of his time in the way he wanted to play. Brilliant mind. I don't think could get it over to the players who weren't as gifted as him in his day. But I would say I would put Nick.
Jeez, that'd be fun.
I would put Nick up there.
That would be fun.
And Jake.
I mean, Nick is a great option, actually.
I just, I know he would never take the gig, but I mean, I think a Nick Dobber combination could be quite interesting. With the kind of mentorship and the gravitas that a Nick Mallard would bring to a box setup post 2027, and Dobber to kind of be the hands-on coach and the philosopher within the setup. But I would like that combination. But if you talk of where I rank the Bok coaches from 1996 onwards, I would say Rassie, given what he's done, he stands head and shoulders alone. But for the rest, I would have to put Nick Mallard there. 16 matches unbeaten, went to a World Cup, dramatic World Cup against one of the great Australian teams of all times. They lost in extra time, 27-21. No tries conceded, beat the All Blacks in the 3rd and 4th playoff. Had they got to that final, they would have rolled their French team, and he would have been a World Cup winner as well. Won in New Zealand, won against all the teams. So for me, he is. I think 71% was his winning record, the most celebrated, and obviously Jake, 2007
Definitely.
World Cup win, he's up there. So if I had to rank them, Rassie, because of what he's done in the current situation where he is, Nick Mallard, Jake White. That's where I'd rank them.
Beautiful.
Thanks, that's very kind of you to say
Beautiful,
that. Okay?
mate. I'm still getting over how you said Stavanger.
Stavanger. So keep on telling us where you do watch from or you do listen from. It's fascinating. The one idea that Zels and I are playing with, because we got the Box by 10 t-shirts, we got the mugs, we got whatever Float wants to give us to give away.
We've got Keo Zels shirts coming.
Yeah, we got Keo Zels shirts coming as we come out the mountain in Table Mountain. But we're going to have a shirt printed that we're going to wear. And it's going to be from every city that you guys have logged, that you watch us from. It's going to be a shirt, obviously, that gets updated all the time. And in the next couple of weeks, well, especially by the November series, we'll be having a Box by 10. And everyone who supports a Box by 10, your city that you watch from will be on that shirt. How cool is that?
That is cool.
So we really do thank you for your support. Go to that WhatsApp channel. Help us there. Support Eben when he's in London. Send your best to Kendra, who's recovering from a serious op on her ankle. One of you is going to be the lucky recipient of this 5-liter Monster. It's almost, as I said, as big as Eben himself. KWV brandy. We're going to close on one thing because we don't get too political on this program. But it's lots of questions that you guys asked. The much publicized equity deal with South African Rugby, the selling of 20% to an equity partner. There's been a showdown. There's been a standoff. 7 of the 14 provincial unions wanted a postponement because they weren't happy with what they considered a lack of transparency from within South African Rugby. Mark Alexander, Rion Oberholzer said there has been transparency. Yuri Ru's been the consultant on that. Rion fired back to say there would be no delay, and they would have the vote tonight, and the vote would decide what would happen, and they wouldn't entertain another equity deal offer at the moment because of the one that was on the table. They needed 75% majority. At that stage, they only had 50%, 7 from 14 guaranteed. Gator McKenzie, the sports minister, came in, made a public appeal to Mark Alexander, wrote an open letter and said, for the sake of calm and sanity, can you postpone it? And SA Rugby has agreed to postpone it. So it is postponed. They're all back at the boardroom. Your thoughts on that, Zels?
Yeah, look, I'm not a very clever guy when it comes to this sort of thing. From what I understand, it's a 20% share in this SA Rugby venture. And it's effectively, from what I understand, a loan. So the money that they invest has to be repaid, but the 20% is something that these guys own in perpetuity. So we're giving away something forever for a short-term loan. That doesn't seem like good business sense to me. Again, I don't know all the details. I'm glad that they are pumping the brakes just so everybody's on the same page and there's clarity. And I think the best decision, as much as we want to cash in the short term on our success, we need to make good long-term decisions here.
Yeah, and I think, again, I hate political interference in sport, and some would say the sports minister has no right to get involved. I think his intent to get involved is for the right reasons.
Yeah.
He said he wanted to arm himself with the most informed opinions when he gets asked questions in Parliament. And look, I've enjoyed Gator McKenzie since he's been on the scene because I do believe he's there for the athlete. He's getting this serious amount of heat at the moment for going to Olympic Games, going to test matches. Yeah, that's part of his job. And
he's legit.
And I also hate the sin that, why is he not flying economy? I mean, if you're a minister, they're going to fly business, they're going to fly first class, they're going to stay in good hotels. It's just part of the nature of the job. The crap that they've got to deal with is the counterbalance. So from what I've seen, what I've experienced, he's there for the right reasons, and there's no threat and anger in his narrative. There's a lot of solution seeking.
Yes.
And what he wanted was a compromise in terms of, let's do this in an adult, mature fashion, and let's be able to answer each one's questions. So we don't need 14 provincial unions to be fighting the national governing body, the custodian of the game. We need them to be working together for the good of South African rugby.
Correct.
So I think it's the most calm, balanced decision. And I just get the feeling from what's going on is that people believe there has been a lack of transparency, whether it's accurate or inaccurate. But there seems to be a big thing about who's getting commissions on this deal. SA Rugby has said there's no one from within their office that's getting commissions. Unions are saying that they're not so sure about that. And I think that's at the heart of it. Is anyone walking away with cash? That shouldn't be walking away with cash. And I think that's what needs to be discussed and what's going to be discussed. And that the unions haven't come in at the last minute and basically been forced to make a decision when they feel they don't have all the information. And historically, we know how it's worked within South African rugby. Going back to the start of time, it was always horse trading, bartering. Make sure that each provincial president has got your hand till that vote, because he could just turn and take another piece of paper. And it was short-term gain for people who were in charge there, not necessarily in the interest of the game. But calm and sanity has prevailed. The other calm and sanity would be 4 from 4.
4 from 4, baby. Let's do it.
4 from 4. Box by 10 and 4 from 4, baby. URC and the match officiating. Charles, speak to Tappe.